My name is Andrew Wisner. I was in Heidelberg, Germany this summer for 2 months. While I was there, the team I was working with did a variety of tasks. We did construction work, we did children's camps, English camps, um, did a little bit of street evangelism, did an apologetics group, which turned out really well. It was certainly a very interesting experience, a good experience. Um, Germany is a country that I think is often overlooked, like a lot of Europe, because so much of the Christianity is nominal that people just tend to ignore it. The best numbers that anyone can come up with would say that approximately 1 to 2% of Germans would say they're born again. That's approximately 1.5 million out of 80 million people in the country. And so it's very sad, very disappointing. When you talk to Germans about having a relationship with Christ, it often confuses them because they've never heard that terminology before. Even though the Reformation started in Germany, even though you have a lot of theologians, Bonhoeffer certainly from Germany, who would talk about these things, religion is very much tradition. It's not uncommon that you'll have clergymen who are agnostic because going into the clergy is seen as a profession. It's certainly not uncommon that religion is seen as tradition. A family would go to church Christmas and Easter, sort of like in the United States. They might be agnostic, but that's just what their family's done. That's what they've always done, and so they just do it without thinking. The same would be true for baptisms or confirmation, things like that. It's very much, I don't know how to describe it. It's very much done for the heck of it, I guess. And so it's somewhat of a post-Christian society. Well, there certainly wasn't any typical day on this trip. Saturdays were typically work days. In the organization with which we were working had a large building, and they were adding a third story to the building. And so part of our job was to lay subflooring down in order to prepare this space. The space is supposed to be used later on for prayer meetings and to have missionaries come in to provide a place where they can stay free of charge to work with the organization. The apologetics group we didn't necessarily have a lot of people. It may have been 20 to 30 average, but it was still very good to discuss with. It was very good to help strengthen other believers' faith and give them a way to explain why they believe what they believe. And so that was typically on a Thursday night. It took
When you had those meetings, what age groups typically came out of that 20 to 30?
More young adult, kind of young married couples. It was kind of passed via word of mouth. There wasn't a lot of advertising for it, but among different small churches in the area, people would start talking about it, and so they would come. There was one night, I think, we had a scientist come who was supposed to give the argument for why religion and science can coexist. And that night, I think we had probably 100 people, which was really good. A lot of people from the University of Heidelberg, professors there, which was awesome. We covered a lot of different topics. We pulled a lot from C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. There was one night, the first night actually that we did it, I had to give a presentation on the logical arguments for God and had to research it and write everything up in German to do it. So that was certainly an interesting experience. And then I found out when I got there I was tasked with having to present in German and then translate into English for myself. But it was just really good to be able to strengthen other believers' faith. The group itself did not do a lot of street evangelism. It got into some interesting complications. The missionaries we worked with did not know they could purchase Bibles or tracts. So I wound up buying a lot of that stuff on my own and distributing them. But a lot of it was very cheap, and I would just generally try to have a couple Bibles and tracts with me on hand. And that way when I'm out in public or I meet someone, get into a conversation, you can share the gospel with them. Probably one of the best ways to come into conversation is is when you start talking with someone and they ask you, oh, well, you speak German very well. Where are you from? Why are you here? Then you go on to explain what you're doing in Heidelberg, and then you get to share the gospel with the person and leave them with a tract and a Bible, hopefully. And there would be opportunities to talk to people which would come out of the blue. I mean, it was certainly a godsend because Germans tend to be very closed off towards religion. It's thought of very much as something personal, something you don't discuss with others. Certainly not something that you try to tell with others or share with others. But there were definitely some God moments when people would just open up to you and you wouldn't even be sure why. But they wanted to know more about Jesus. And so it gave the perfect opportunity to share with them about the love of Christ. The moment I was sure that this trip was certainly something from God was when the finances started coming in, because I didn't necessarily believe that I could raise, I think it's a total of like $4,450, and the church was just incredibly supportive, funded probably 95%, literally, of the trip between the members and the churches and as an organization. So that was awesome. My favorite moment over the summer would probably have been one day we had partnered with, it was a missions team who had come from Pennsylvania, partnered with them for one day. And our objective for the day was to tick off as many Germans as we could. We would ride on the trams around the city, and there would be one group that would play worship music, and there would be other people who would go throughout the tram, and when people would get on, they would stop them and say, hello, I'd like to tell you about Jesus. Usually that turned people away, but there were a couple people who were very interested, and it gave good opportunities to get into a conversation. So that was certainly an awesome thing we did. But my favorite part would have been when there was one time we were switching trams. We had gotten off at a station and we're waiting for the next tram to come. And there were some people sitting at the station. And so we were going around and talking to them and asking if they would like information or tracts or something of that nature. And to be honest, I don't even know what compelled me to do it, but there was a Middle Eastern looking couple, probably Turkish, if I had to guess, who was sitting on a bench, and I went up to them and I said, would you like a Bible? And as I said that in my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. They're going to be so offended. You wouldn't offer a German a Bible, but you certainly wouldn't offer someone from a Muslim background a Bible. But to my surprise, the man's eyes just lit up, and he smiled, and he's like, yes, I'd love a Bible. And he and his wife just looked so excited that they could have their own Bible, and it kind of threw me because they would have been the last people I would have expected to want something like that, to want to have anything to do with Jesus. And so that would probably have been my favorite moment of the summer, I think.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you tell me something that you particularly missed from home while you were in Germany?
Something I missed from home.
Was there anything in particular while you were there that you thought, man, I wish you know?
Really, I certainly missed being at Lakeside. I missed having a group of people who were united in one purpose and committed to sharing the gospel. There were some times that could be very frustrating with our team and with the organization with which we worked, where each person had their own individual idea of what to do, and there wasn't really a consensus about anything. And so that would be, I think just having a unity and having a church body would be what I missed the most. I'd probably say I brought back a sense of being more missions-minded. I think it's so easy for us just to settle into our lifestyles, and I guess especially in the South, because we all say we're Christian, we all say we go to church, but the fact is there's still plenty of ways to live radically for God. When you read the Gospels, you read the book of Acts, there's not one time when the gospel was ever comfortable religion. You know, in every single story, it tended to be either countercultural or very offensive, or both. And I think so often we can kind of, we dismiss the idea of sharing the gospel because we don't want to seem like we're crazy, or we don't want to seem like we're offensive. We don't want to offend someone. But the fact is, it's really hard to say you follow Jesus and not just be completely insane. And I'd probably say that's what I brought back the most.
Don't feel obligated, but if there's anything else in particular that you want to share, you can certainly do that.
Well, I would say, having actually lived in Heidelberg for 2 months, having lived with a family, experiencing day-to-day life in Germany, I would certainly encourage everyone to think about going to the foreign mission field. There's so many places where the harvest is it's just so large, but there's no one to bring it in. It's very sad, but the fact is we need workers. And, you know, at some point you have to say, you know, I've got a comfortable life here, but, you know, I have a greater calling. And being able to bring souls to Christ, or to allow the Spirit to work through you, to bring souls to Christ, is better than any kind of comfortable lifestyle you could have in the U.S. Whether you go to Western Europe or East Asia or the Middle East, anywhere you go, it's going to be better. So that would be my encouragement.